to please both sides. I think that the older generation and the younger generation have very different tastes, and yet we all share this wonderful wonderful tradition of music, of this, from the great tradition of started, of course, Bach, Beethoven, Brahms, all of this, all the way to now. And I think that it's when we project, I think, especially as a young musician, or in the beginning of our career, who we are on stage, off stage, in the internet, it's now, how can I say, it's complex. It's more than just one image. For so long, we were just used to one ideal image of what an artist, a musician should be. And I feel like, yeah, it produces this sort of feeling of, oh, am I allowed to be who I want to be, or who I am? And as an artist, you start to ask these, so many questions, and nobody, people, you get encouraging people from one side, you get maybe sometimes people who discourage and say, no, you shouldn't do that. But then you don't know until you do it. And that's always been a tricky thing. So I'm happy to hear that you enjoy what I do. And
I wanted to ask you, where are you now?
I'm in Philadelphia. My apartment.
Yeah,
I live in Philadelphia for many years now. 2005 was since 2005, because I moved here from Australia to go to the Curtis Institute of Music. I see. Is that Yuja in your background?
Yeah.
That
is the number 9 of our magazine.
I went to school with her. Yeah, we went to school here in Curtis, in the Philadelphia. Oh, what kind of student was I?
Yeah.
I was, for me, it was a new environment. I was I was there for 5 years, and the first 2 years was very different. And then I went through a very big change, big progression. The first 2 years I was very intimidated, because I was coming from Australia, and of course, people love classical music there, but it's not as, not like in Europe or in America, or even in like in both Americas. I mean, I think that Australia is still a little further behind in terms of the population of classical music lovers, but it's increasing with every year, and it's a good thing. But most people there love sports, and that sports is part of the culture, our culture in Australia. But classical music is, it's increasing, especially with many. But mostly, I think that it's with at the time it was not as much. So especially in my town, I come from Brisbane. It's not like Sydney or Melbourne. So we are the third city. Yeah. So it was a very humbling experience to come here and meet the other students who are stars. Everyone is a star from their local town or city, and then to come here and it's so humbling. And then for the first 2 years, I felt
not special anymore. So
exactly, and in fact, very low. not just, oh yeah, I was from high, not to the middle. I felt like I went from like very low. So I started from the bottom, and had to work my way up. In my third year, I felt like suddenly things okay, and the improvement scale. It's like, it's like this. It's not like gradually like this. It's like this. The graph is very. It's like one day suddenly it clicks, and then everything, we say in English, it's like it was bottlenecked, because the neck of the bottle of the wine bottle, yeah, it's like this. So you have to accumulate until finally it clicks, and then suddenly I was able to understand. Was the beginning, and that's just the beginning, but it was a great moment, the beginning of finally understanding the language of music. You know, was probably at the end of my my third year, and then the fourth year, I did the Yehudi Menuhin. Oh no, actually, end of third year I did Yehudi Menuhin, and then fourth year I did Queen Elizabeth. So, and then fifth year I just stayed on because I love my teacher very much, and I wanted to continue studying. And even though I had many concerts, I still, you know, for me, Philadelphia became my like second home, and I wanted to come back and have a base here. And you know, Curtis was very willing to sort of support me in the fifth year for you know, it's a tuition free. Everyone's on full scholarship for the school. So they were willing to, you know, of course, have me as a fifth year student. So that was really cool.
How was the environment there? Because you were a teenager, right? And did you have many friends, or was an environment of competition? And or how was it?
I think that the environment was very competitive, but that's to be expected, I think, because it was just for me, I think, more of a taste of the real world, so to speak. And so the competitiveness, the competitive nature did not prevent people from, it's not like in everyday life, not like, oh, you see someone in the hallway, you pass them and you don't talk. It's not like that. But there is a real competitive spirit, which I think is healthy. It just depends though, because if you are not this very kind of, for some people they're more sensitive, and it can really, you know, bother them. But I still think that this kind of competitive in what I experienced is still less pressure, or maybe not equal pressure to what young people experience today with social media. I think that is huge pressure, because you're no longer competing against the people in your school. You're competing with everybody. Suddenly, you know, you know, and from all over the world. And so it's both a blessing and a curse. A blessing because you have so much more access to more knowledge and more things than when I went to school. But now you're also, you know, it's this constant awe, and of course the distraction as well. So
how important was it for you, and how important do you think it is to win competitions, that to be a career?
I mean, let's start with how important is it to win competitions to build a career. I think that it's not the only way to build a career. Many people have built careers, like, you know, from not winning competitions. But then you have to maybe have a big conductor say, yeah, I believe in you, or maybe a record label say, yeah, we believe in you. And then, you know, it starts like this. For me, I felt like, because I'm from Australia, you know, I don't know anybody. Competition was my only way. It was the way of where I could, you know, without having contacts, without having special, you know, sort of relationships, that I could just, you know, prove myself. It's would, you know, of course it's much easier to not have to do that, but but it's a different path. Maybe it's not easier, maybe, you know, it's just as difficult, but for me, competitions, I felt like, hey, I could go there, I could be like, everyone's on the same level, and then you start, and then you begin to prove yourself. And I think that, yeah, that's how the career building is. It never stops. You always have to, and then of course it's not just to prove, it's to discover. You start to you know, you prove to not others but yourself, not a panel of jury, but you know, your own artistry. And you prove to, almost sometimes I feel like I need to prove to the composers, I'm proving to Bach. Let's just say, yeah, like then, so I've recently been working on projects where I've been, where I feel like I have to prove to the composer. So that's become a thing now. Yeah, that's, it's always everything is always a challenge. So coming back to your question of, is it important to make a career from competitions? I think it is one way, but it's not the only way.
I wanted to ask you, how are you living through this quarantine situation on a human level, on an artistic level?
I've been working on just personal projects like this one, and so a few others. I've also been, yeah, just doing the things that I did not have the chance to do before, such as like going, like doing more social media. For a concertizing artist, of course, I'm already considered doing a lot of social media, but you know, recently I discovered, have you heard of the platform Discord?
No.
Yeah, so I also was not familiar with this until very recently. And it's a platform that's like a community for gamers. So usually like gamers use it. And it's like kind of like Slack, you know, Slack, but it was more like community based. And there is like chat threads, discussion threads, and then also, but it's live, it's all live. So it's like chat room style. It's like Reddit, but live. And then there is voice channel threads. So you can get in a voice channel with your friends and stuff like that. And so I decided to turn this into like a classical music server. And then I turned the voice chat for when people usually talk with their gaming friends I renamed them and repurposed them into practice rooms. Because many people were saying, oh, it's so difficult to find a purpose to practice now during this pandemic. I have nothing to practice for. And I thought, well, yeah, it's hard because maybe it's hard to practice on your own. So I thought, why not let it be with everyone? So I repurposed, so we have like practice room 1 all the way through 12. And, you know, at any time, the server is always online. So even though I'm not there right now, someone is practicing there. You know, if you go on now, I'm guaranteed it's like, because we have like, you know, quite a few people on the server. It's like maybe 9,000 people. Like there's always someone practicing in the room. It's like in real conservatory, you have to wait for the practice room sometimes. But then the voice chat, you know, we limit it to maybe only 15 people can enter. And so one person is practicing, the others are listening. And so then people discuss and then like to talk, and then, you know, it's a great way to play for people. And you're practicing. And of course, in the beginning, it takes a little time to get used to, but then, you know, young people, they just take to it like this, you know, they're so fast, and then they're enjoying it. Then it gives them a purpose to practice. And actually you through the server, you can do things like cool things like, oh, we have like a timer, like how long this person has practiced for, and it just like gives you a practice diary on your own, like a digital diary, like stuff like that. And then if you're, you know, done with practicing, you can go to another, you know, discussion, like a lounge, and people can just chat a bit, take a break, come back into practicing. These sort of things, it's all on the internet now. And
what do you think these are the things you do on social networks, Instagram, the videos, and those are the pros. Do you think there are contrasts in this kind of new technologies and new ways of communications?
I think that the only cons for me, especially during this time, that we are held back by our hardware, that the equipment that most people don't have like a good professional microphone, you know, or you know, so if you're using it as a musician, but that's probably because most music students it's not part of our education that we should invest in a good microphone. You know, you don't learn this in school. You don't learn how to record yourself. even simply. You don't learn how to make your own audition tape. Like, why not? It's so easy now. Now we have the technology. Why is the schools not teaching us how to make our own recording? And some kids are doing it. They find, okay, we can use the iPhone and maybe use another, kind of like a digital thing that they put the microphone there. But like, why is it not a normal class? So, I think that our education is still very backwards, and there are certain things that's the cons, is that you have these, let's say, the practice room idea, but then people are still practicing with, there's the normal computer microphone, and that holds us back, I think.
Do you think the coming back to the artistic life would be like after this happens?
It will be very interesting. I think that it will take time. Many people will not want to go to the concert halls in the first few months, even after we say it is okay, even after the government says you can go back. I think many of the, especially older generation, will take their time in coming back. I think that will further delay, push back the recovery. I think that, but I think at the same time, this will change us. We will appreciate the first concerts that you go to will be so good, and then it will create a new appreciation for classical music. I hope, this is what I'm optimistic about. I think that right now we just have to make sure that we, of course, it's this pandemic, this time right now is a terrible situation for many. I have no concerts. All my colleagues have no concerts. People at orchestras, especially in the United States. So, but yet, how can we need to make sure that we are not forgotten, that we still are producing artistic value and adding that to the community, our communities. So I think it's not, of course, everyone deserves time off, and we've all taken time off, I think, by now. But now to come up with ways, like, by what right are we allowed to call ourselves artists if we don't create? Right? That's something that I always ask myself. And I think time has sort of shone light on the fact that most musicians are not creating, because we're not trained like that. And I think I go back to education. I don't think we're trained in a way to think outside the box. I think that actually that's discouraged when you're going down the path. You cannot play Bach like this. You cannot play Mozart like this. And then you're like this. You're going down this path. I mean, it's important because then you go down in its depth. You need to be like this in order to, and depth, by depth I mean the meaning behind each note. To just not try to think of too many distractions and find the truth of the composer's will, the truth behind each note. That's so important. And then after you find that, then to expand again. And I think that, I don't know. I don't even know how it could be done, but I do think that maybe that's the path that I had to take. It was very one at a time, but maybe there's a way to just, now that we understand more, to sort of at least anticipate in education the future, what the future might have. I think that it's so easy just to never change the curriculum. I mean, we are learning Mozart, we are learning Bach, and every other, I think, imagine if science was being taught the same way it was 100 years ago. You can't do that. Imagine if computer science, you're going into some sort of, or medicine was taught the same way 100 years ago, or 80 years ago, or 50 years ago. But it is in music. We're being taught the same way that it was 50, 60, 100 years ago.
How can we teach students to be creative, to be different?
I think the short answer to that is that we have to move forward as an industry. The whole everything from top all the way to bottom, everyone has to move forward. And so then within what does that everyone include? Let's talk about that. I think it means artists, because, you know, we always ask, I gave a masterclass yesterday, or no, the day before, 2 days ago. And it was and the students asked, it was for Harvard students, and they're musicians, but they also major in like other degrees, like neuroscience. They are going into other fields, but they love music and they take it very seriously. They have an orchestra, and that's just student run, and they do it. These are kids who really love music, but they have an extra outside kind of sense. It's not like conservatory kids like us, like we just kind of like, you know, go in like the very narrow path. They're already thinking about different things. And I think that, yeah, kids now, and when I was, you know, in school, are thinking a bit differently too. And there was a question that said, well, how can we get more young people into the hall? And I said, you need more young artists that young people like playing on stage. That's really it. I don't think about any other genre of music or any other genre in general, like of entertainment, movies, you know, actors and stuff. Who do the kids love the most? They love the other kids. They love people, like kids who are like actors who are older than them by a bit, but that they represent them. We always want to be represented in our lives, you know, for everything from politics to just pop culture to even culture itself. Like we always want to be represented. We want to feel like, yeah, there's something that why should I follow this person otherwise? So, but yet classical music is like, no, this is the professor, you know, it's kind of like the only, you know, a young person, like, and, you know, if I'm considered, you know, 30, I'm 31 now, and I'm still called a young artist, you know, that's like, I appreciate that title, but at the same time, what I think that's the least of the trouble. I think it's more like, oh, you know, people don't know how to play Beethoven until they're 60. Well, I'm sorry, then what are you going to do? Like you're asking, if you believe that, and I think that, yeah, music does get better with age. It's one of those things we have to acknowledge that too. In classical music, there's just the complexity brings more depth behind it. There's more thoughtful people play classical music better. When you put more thought behind each note, it's just how it is. But at the same time, if you keep pushing that thought of like, oh, a 20-something-year-old cannot play Beethoven, then I'm sorry, you're never going to have younger people. If you don't like say, hey, this is exciting, this is, you know, the industry has to accept that. So from the industry, they have to already start accepting that young artists are exciting. Not just like, oh, we're nurturing them, we're caring for them, like poor young artists. No, if they say like, this young artist is exciting and they are the new star, like that could be something that would change the thought. But that's, you see, there's a lot of ego in our industry. I don't think that people would feel comfortable doing that, because at the end of the day, yeah, you want to compare to, well, in the end, the music of the 60 or the 50-year-old, you know, someone who's like seasoned and everything. So, but yeah, at the same time, you need these, you know what I'm saying? It's like, you want to have young people come into the hall, you need young people on stage. It's as simple as that. So, you know, the rest you have to deal with it, you know, the industry has to figure out on their own, against their own feelings, against their own ego. But that's just the answer. That's the short answer. I think there could be structural changes, but I think that I think that you have to be careful with that. You know, I think that it's, like, if you mean just repertoire wise, yeah, I think that's a discussion that is good to have. But, you know, I do also think that, yeah, how do you, that's a tough topic, you know. That's a, like, you know, because who am I to say what other people should enjoy? And I think that starts with that. I think if more people could think, who am I to claim to know what other people would enjoy, I think that that would lead to a lot of change already. Because we have a lot of artistic administrators, people who, you know, say, well, the program should be this. And in the end, like, even if you are, like, you know, we're all going to be 50 years old one day. I mean, hopefully we're all going to be 60 years old at one point. I don't think that even then I would claim to realize, like, what people want. I know what people like, but what do people need? I think it's hard to find that balance. And then I think that, okay, then these people start to be like, no, we need to program only this. And you start to see, like, St. Louis Symphony. I'm going to put out a name like that. They lost a lot of their subscribers when David Robertson, like, started just to only put in what he wanted. And it's okay if you're passionate about a certain type of music. He was very passionate, for his case, he was very passionate about contemporary composers, modern composers and contemporary composers. But, you know, I heard, and this is from you know, people there, people would say the best part of the concert was, the most passionate part was his speech at the beginning, before the composers, the new compositions. And I think that it's just like, it's not against new music. I think new music is like for me, it's like the different flavor that needs to be there, because then you go back. It's like, you don't want to eat like only steak. You want to have like a little bit of like that extra, whoa, like that palate cleanser that makes you think in a different way. And then you come back to the burger and it's like, oh yeah, this is really great. You want to have variety. I think variety is important. And so, but when someone pushes too much in one direction, you alienate other people. And I think that that is the whole, that's a real concern that I've seen. And so, you know, St. Louis, it's like they lost like 2/3 or something. I don't know. Yeah, I'd have to check the figures, but, you know, like a lot of their subscribers and left. And you know, he was there, I think, was it 8 years, 10 years, or whatever. And then, you know, done now. And then he leaves, but the orchestra is still there. They still have to deal with the empty hall. You know, it's like, how, like, that's not fair. That's not fair that one person can can affect, you know, if I make a decision, it's my concert. You know, if I decide what I want to play, that's my concert. I don't, as a soloist, I never have to worry about affecting a whole other people's lives. But as a conductor, I feel like you have that responsibility. You have to take care of the industry. Like, you, not just your own ego, not just what you feel passionate about. And I think that too many people think like that. Too many conductors, too many like artistic administrators, people who are like artistic planners, they start to think in that way. They start to think, well, if I only pick what's popular, why do you, like, where's my worth? And what, like, no, I need to curate what you can't just have, you know, but then it goes beyond, it goes too much. And then they start comparing themselves to other artistic administrators who's like, well, you know, oh, you're putting that on this week? Well, you know, we're doing this, a more obscure, and you must not know about this composer because you don't know, like that kind of thing. And then it starts this like weird thing. We see it, it happens. And then it's like, what are you guys doing? Did you forget about the audience? Did you forget about like us? And it's just, and then it becomes this thing of, oh, well, you know, I politely clap because I have to. I have to applaud. And but without the real like sort of relatability. And I think that kills audiences slowly over time. Is what kills them is not contemporary music.
Mhm.
It's the people who are playing with their egos, like that are just, you know, doing it, and we suddenly were just like, oh, well, you know. I also think on the same side, if you only gave them like pop like classics, it's not good either. There has to be a balance, you know? So this isn't about me like being, oh, contemporary composers are bad. No, it's like, if you only did like Beethoven's Fifth, like that's pretty bad too. But like, you need to have both. And I think that, and then the attitude towards classical music itself, like, is it young? Is it exciting? That can be like, look at what LA Phil is doing. Look at what, like, they're doing so well. They make it young and exciting. You know, Dudamel there, you know, he's a young, you know, conductor, and he was the start of the wave of young conductors. You know, it's like people were suddenly like, wow, I feel like, and you know, I don't, as much as we respect older conductors, it's like you have your audience, but you need to let young conductors, you can't just force a group of young people to like another person's audience. Like you know, people grow up with their own heroes. Let me have mine. That's the thing.
What can you say to young people that are studying music right now, violin? What message can you give them? To people in my country, in Argentina, for example.
I think I would say this. I would say, you know, continue working hard, be creative, be an inspiration to others. You know, I think that because throughout these three things, you will, working hard, everyone knows, right? That's shouldn't be need explaining. Being creative, that forces you to think outside the box. And then it comes back to what we do as well, to find ways within the confines of what Mozart wrote, to be what Bach wrote, what Tchaikovsky, or, you know, any Mendelssohn, any composer wrote, to be creative. That comes back. By exercising that muscle out there on different things, you come back and you're like, oh, wow, I can do this. And then be an inspiration to others. That is important because that continues the wave, the giving. It makes you a more generous person. It makes you happy too, because other people look up to you. You'll feel more fulfilled. And I think fulfillment is like the biggest feeling, whether or not we're feeling fulfilled, is like, I see that even in young people in everywhere, like that's like the biggest struggle people have right now is, I feel empty, or I don't feel fulfilled. And so being an inspiration to others, that creates fulfillment. So I would say those three things are the most important things for not just musicians, but for anyone. Hi, everyone. I'm Ray Chen. This is a hello to Música Clásica and all of the people who are watching this video. Greetings. I hope you're doing well, especially during these difficult times. I just want to say that I really miss being in Argentina. I was supposed to come this year. Unfortunately, we couldn't make it, but hopefully next time. And for the meantime, I just want to wish you all, best health and to positive spirits. And I hope you all stay connected. Call your friends, call your parents if you can. And this is just hello and greetings, and hope to see you soon. Bye.